Good morning everyone, welcome back to another weekly outlook. We're going to jump straight into it now and we're going to start off here on the monthly. So just quickly, the monthly, we are in a bullish dealing range, right? From this low here where we mitigated this bullish imbalance to this high here where we mitigated this bearish imbalance and order block, right? We've come into that resistance. Price looks to have topped out. We've created this tighter range here, taken buy side liquidity, and we had a bearish reaction from there. Now, in terms of a bearish target, because my outlook would be a monthly bearish pullback, right, towards a discount. So this is the discount area here of this dealing range, right? So marked out clearly to the right. What do we have? We have an open bullish imbalance. We have an open BPR as well here from the monthly time frame. From the quarterly time frame, we have this order block, which is also clear here on the monthly as well. And we have this inverse fair value gap here, which you can see performed as resistance and could later be support around the same zone here and discount. So really strong confluence area down here in the discount of this monthly dealing range, okay? So what would be the first target? On the quarterly, which we can't see here, so let's just go up for a moment, you can see we have a nice clear fair value gap. That would be the first target, the open of this fair value gap here. We have those other POIs or PDAs down here. So I do think price will go further, but that is the main target for this time being for price, okay? Just the open of that fair value gap, which is where the first PDA or POI starts from, right? The first bullish POI that we would run into. So just dropping down to the monthly quickly, it's clear and obvious sort of where the intentions are at the moment. So given the current monthly candle, yes, we have some bullish momentum, but it is normal for price to obviously go back and retract within that previous monthly candle, right? Looking for some sort of continuation, some area of resistance, which we may see on the weekly, of course, to then continue bearish from. Now we did have SMC with the fair value gap. DXY has already entered that quarterly fair value gap, which may be responsible, of course, for some of this bullish momentum. But on the weekly, it'll make much more sense why we have this bullish momentum here, okay? And it's not a put off at the moment just yet for price to continue bearish, okay? So we've got 16 days left in this candle. Let's go down to the weekly. So here we are on the weekly. We have a bearish dealing range, okay? So from this high to this low, weekly broke these bullish structures down here. So the weekly bias is of course bearish because we created that bearish structure. Now, here's where that SMT or SMC occurred at that quarterly fair value gap, and we've had some bullish momentum from there. However, that was looked to be pulling back to this bearish POI here. Okay, so as we saw in that monthly candle, we've pulled back into that previous month. However, we have pulled back to a draw on liquidity, a bearish imbalance here, overlapping with a BPR. So the week has just started. There is, of course, bullish momentum. We're into this OTE zone as well, and we've taken that previous weekly high. These are all necessary, of course, for price to go lower, but I will admit, yes, we have bullish momentum. Taking that previous weekly high yesterday and coming into Tuesday now, we now have the opportunity to create that bearish weekly profile where we can have a Tuesday or Wednesday high of the week, okay? And there's news today as well with PPI, so we may see that bearish momentum enter from there. All right, just to re-go over those points, we have a bearish dealing range and structure. Price has pulled back to these bearish imbalances, right? PDAs, POIs, and OTE. We've taken buy side liquidity now from the previous weekly high. We have the potential to have that Tuesday, Wednesday high of the week to continue bearish from. Okay, coming down to our quarterly fair value gap. So we'll see how the daily lines up with this, but the monthly is obviously looking out for a bearish pullback towards these discount areas. The weekly has a bearish structure which aligns with that potentially, right? As long as we respect this area and look for price to top out. So we've got the weekly bearish POI being reached. Given the bearish dealing range and structure, I expect the price to continue bearish from here and have that potential Tuesday, Wednesday high of the week. Now we've gone up above the previous weekly high where we opened from, we can now leave a wick at the top here, which is why I'm not worried about this just yet. This can still turn bearish and we'd have a nice wick at the top and a bearish candle body. We have quite a long range from the previous weekly high to the low, so I'm not sure, depending on what happens obviously during the week, if we'll reach this previous weekly low so quickly. But as I said, we have the potential now to leave a nice wick up here and create that bearish candle body. So I think that's enough for the weekly. I think it's quite clear. Okay, until this area clears up and tops out, of course we're not going to look bearish. So let's go down to the daily and see if that agrees with the weekly. Now, given all that weekly bearish momentum, I think it would be fairly obvious that the daily was going to look rather bullish. Okay, so the daily is a bit more complicated. The overall higher time frame bearish development that I expect is still in play because we still have these bearish areas here and we have that bearish dealing range on the weekly. However, the daily time frame has bullish order flow, right? We can see that. We can see we respected this bullish imbalance here and then went on to break these highs and create now a new bullish dealing range on the daily. Right? We now have a week's worth, of course, of bullish candles, bullish closes. We also had some SMT here between these two candles. So DXY did mitigate this imbalance here yesterday. So we took that previous daily low, and on DXY we have also gone into the imbalance, okay, and then from there it found bullish momentum, took out that previous weekly high. In terms of a bullish outlook, we do still have weak highs above these low resistance highs here that price may come for. In terms of our higher time frame outlook, I would prefer for us to of course top out here and see some bearish price action come into play. But at the moment, as I've said here, I'm awaiting price to top out and give bearish signs for daily backing with the other high time frames. So the daily does not align with the monthly or weekly at the moment. The daily is very bullish, and we have these bullish barriers because we have order blocks, imbalances. We have this inverse fair value gap that may become also support here. So even if price does turn around and start to look bearish, we may see price struggle around these zones here. But either way, the higher time frame plan is for this to top out somewhere and to go bearish. But for the time being, of course, it's bullish, so not everything's simple and aligned, and we may continue higher because there are buy side liquidity targets above here that price may want to come and take out. So a bit of a confusion picture there with the conflict, but all we can do is follow that order flow. So we may need to look now at the lower time frame and see what order flow the lower time frame has that we may be able to follow, knowing that of course if we follow bullish order flow, there's the potential that price could turn around at any moment given the area it's in. So it does take away some of the probability from those positions. So saying that, let's go down to the 4 hour and let's see how that looks. So in case it wasn't clear from the daily, of course the 4 hour is bullish, in bullish order flow. We're creating bullish dealing ranges, respecting the 4 hour bullish imbalances as well, right down here, imbalance respected, imbalance respected, went on to create that dealing range, pulled back into this imbalance here from this candle low to this candle high here. This is that daily imbalance that I was just showing where we had that SMT. In terms of the 4 hour, of course, we respected the 4 hour imbalance. Price eventually went on to create higher prices. Okay, so the 4 hour order flow, lower time frame order flow is very clearly bullish. Here's that low resistance buy side liquidity above. You can see where we've got that sort of trend line of highs here. So that buy side liquidity looks to possibly be targeted. We have a lot of bullish momentum going on at the moment with PPI later today. Just below price here, we have 4 hour bullish PDA, which price hasn't even tapped into yet, but we have some momentum from. So I do see this as a potential area to continue going bullish from. But let's go down to the hourly. Let's see what that looks like there. So I didn't bother just marking out all of those open imbalances on the 4 hour because they're repeated here pretty much on the 1 hour. This is 1 hour and 4 hour overlapping imbalance area here. Right, so price had the potential to go bullish from this zone here. And then further down into a discount, there is also this overlapping imbalance as well. So we can see, of course, the 1 hour order flow and structures are also bullish. We have PPI today later, 1:30 p.m. UK time or 8:30 New York time. We'll see if we get anything before then. If not, we may see the moves happen after. Price clearly needs to sell. There's a lot of bullish momentum going on. Nothing tradable at the moment. right? So if we're going to follow this bullish momentum and bullish order flow, I would like price to preferably use one of these areas here. So the potential is now we're going to get a sort of a bearish trap, a bearish fake out maybe. Price has now gone above these highs here. If we pull back, it may pull back into this zone here, which would look like, you know, a break of structure, a nice sweep of buy side liquidity and break of structure below these lows. However, it would just be coming down into another bullish PDA, so we could see price then proceed to go higher for this buy side liquidity and also any high that it leaves behind. That would of course trick a lot of people into selling, take out their stops, right? So that may be a future scenario today to look out for. See price bottom out in here again and then continue to go higher, so we could see maybe an M15 market maker buy model, right, for that pull down into this zone here. Price bottoms out here and then price proceeds to continue up, creating that market maker buy model fractal and then possibly even going even higher towards that buy side liquidity here. So that's the maybe future scenarios here. There isn't a lot to work with all of this bullish momentum going on here, right? Price is quite bullish at the moment, so of course we may leave behind imbalances here, but then these would be really weak lows with a PDA below them, right? So these lows here are weak. You can see that sell side liquidity trend line build up. Price hasn't taken the Asia lows, so for me this would look like a liquidity grab and we would shake out these early sellers, right, if price was to come back down into this zone here and then bottom out and head higher. Okay, so that's the sort of potential scenario I would see for buys. Again, as I said, we are in this high time frame bearish zone here, so price could break down at any moment and continue that bearish high time frame play, but lower time frame and daily have bullish order flow, so we can see that bullish order flow continue from an area like here. There is the potential as well and the weakness of this imbalance below. Something like that could happen down there. At the moment I would just focus on this zone here, wait for the M15 to give that signal that the M15 wants to continue bullish order flow, and then target in these highs and this buy side liquidity as well eventually. So I hope that's clear. Any questions, just let me know in the comments. These weak lows look like a trap, right? This looks really trappy for anybody looking to either long from here or sell from here if it breaks down. Okay, so be aware of this trap that's going on, that the potential trap here. So let's go down to the M15 just for a quick closer look at this price action. So this is how it looks on the M15. I think these weak lows are a bit more obvious here. You can see we had a really tight evening overnight Asia range. The range is really small here, about 12 to 13 pips. Now I have not checked what has pushed price like this. Price has spiked up, we've taken out buy side liquidity, potentially we're going to come down, take this sell side liquidity into this bullish PDA, and as I showed on the hourly, we may build up a bottom here in this London open kill zone and continue bullish into New York. However, with PPI, we'll wait till after PPI to see what price action gets created. So just back up to the daily to wrap things up. I hope that explanation was clear. Of course, we have a more of a complex picture. We have the monthly pullback still in play as a bias. We have the weekly bearish dealing range, and of course weekly bearish imbalance here as well. So the weekly looks like it could still potentially turn bearish. However, when we get to the daily, it doesn't align. We have some weak highs here for further bullish price action. We have bullish order flow and clear bullish momentum as well. Again, of course, we have the daily imbalance here as well. We've taken previous weekly highs, previous daily highs at the moment, so price could reverse and top out. However, it's not yet aligned with the weekly, monthly outlook, right? So we're looking for those bearish signs. The lower time frame is still bullish, and we have the potential for bullish scenarios to continue and bullish trading to happen today, maybe tomorrow, if price pulls back down to one of those PDAs we looked at on the lower time frame, to head for this low resistance buy side liquidity and any high we leave behind from London. So again, any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.